Paul, great to see you again.
Great to see you.
And given our past history, kind of mutual history of working both within the physical supply chain space, you see the idea of the kind of resilient supply chain. In your view, has much changed from like when you were working at an ocean carrier back in the 90s to now with how customers, supply chain partners are all interacting?
Yeah, thanks, Jason. We'd like to think that things have changed, but from my perspective, starting in the ocean carrier world back in the early 90s to where we are today, really not a lot has changed. There really hasn't been many companies taking advantage of all the technology that's out there to be able to really create the truly resilient supply chain. Really when you think about, obviously the common term is supply chain, but really when you think about it, it's more of a supply web of all these different partners having to work together in different ways. And they're not brought together naturally to collaborate. So it can be very difficult then to get the information that's needed across from order all the way to delivery.
So even if you're going in and selling a global trade management software solution, it doesn't mean that the companies can have the right data to report to the governments of what they're importing and exporting from a regulatory perspective. And it has an impact on the financials as well, right?
It does. It really, everything needs to be connected. I think, the point of global trade management, how that works in with your transportation management, with your financials, with your enterprise performance management, your order management, these things all need to be connected. And really that's why you have to have a complete suite. Bringing that all together is where you're actually able to take those data and turn them into insights and therefore into actions. That's where we see a lot of companies falling down, is they're not able to action the data that they get.
Back to the whole idea of the resilient supply chain, without having global trade and supply chain, how can you have real true visibility into where your source option B is, right? Or your source option C is?
Resilient supply chains are certainly the dream. And I think a lot of people would think that what's happened here over the last 2 years is a bit of a black swan event, but it's been proven not to be, as we mentioned. There's quite a lot to do and a lot of change management that's required in addition to the technology.
The term like black swan event, like where it really resonated was the volcano in Iceland, right? And how that impacted all this freight movement around the world. And I personally thought after that event where you saw all these flights got canceled, but people who had technology were able to quickly change their mode of transport and get their goods moving on fast ships versus those who were sitting there and waiting for a cloud to go away.
And that's where the companies that have done really well through those events have been able to plan for that, create contingencies, and therefore get their goods moving much quicker. Supply chain disruption is endemic, and we need to give companies the best ability to manage when things go wrong, because they always do within the supply chain.
This kind of idea of this single platform, right, is as companies change, they really have to rethink their processes, because putting in a technology, if you don't do it right, it's just it's a Band-Aid.
Absolutely. Technology needs to be deployed in the right way, in the right areas, and then it needs to be managed. I think that's why we've had such a great partnership here between Oracle and KPMG, is that we have that partnership and the trusted relationship to make sure that the technology that we're building and then that you're working with to deploy and make sure that companies are running properly is going to achieve the results that we want to see.
From our structure, when we get to go in and see the guts, right, about what a company is doing before they automate, and a lot of things we're doing around target operating models, where we're seeing these endemic issues that persist across the organization. And when we're recommending solutions, we are recommending Oracle because of the fact of the matter is, from a supply chain perspective, you have the end-to-end.
And there's some good solutions out there, but really we're the only company that can offer that entire complete command center end-to-end in the form of a suite, which, as we mentioned, is important both for your managing your IT infrastructure, but also in achieving the goals that you want to have in the supply chain.
Because trade and supply chain can both be kind of different market differentiators for companies now. And it's that need to pivot and to have the right data and be C-suite ready is important for every trade and supply chain professional.
And it's not just having the data and saying, okay, I know the information. It's now how can you actually change your business with that information? We really think supply chain is becoming the new ERP, right?
Yeah.
These systems, how they tie together too with finance and enterprise performance management, even across, human capital management and CX and all these different businesses. It's becoming really that main system that companies need to get right if they are going to move forward and beat their competition.
You don't see more companies looking at EPM, financial transformation products, with global trade management, right? For me, it just seems natural because it's all trade. Trade data is tax, it's financial data, it's duties, right? It's fees, it's impact, right? That you need to be able to forecast against, report against.
We certainly feel EPM and supply chain, transportation management, global trade management all really belong together and need to be thought of when you're considering, how you're going to run your business, because it's really critical. And then just think about any kind of supply chain disruption, what that does then to the budget that you've created. You have to go back and relook at it. So those things sitting together really make the utmost of sense.
It's all the same data, right? The data you need for order, the data you need for shipment, the data you need to report to government entities, the data that you need for the SEC, right? So being able to have that in a centralized process where you can pull that and have access to it and visibility and make it actionable is just so powerful for organizations.
Exactly. And you asked a little earlier what's changed over the last 30 years. I think companies are still struggling to figure out their supply chain, but the cloud has really been an amazing enabler for that change. This really wasn't possible 5-10 years ago. But now, given the technology, given the rapid deployment of innovation and the collaborative nature of the cloud, we're able to do that. And at Oracle, we have really such a head start in the cloud when it comes to supply chain, especially. Really, that it's something that's been, I think, a real driver for the companies running Oracle.
Well, Paul, this is, as always, it's great to see you, and look forward to continuing the work together.
Again, I appreciate the partnership from KPMG with us at Oracle, and look forward to a really successful year and beyond.
Awesome. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.